Hello and welcome into the Sorare Data Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, talking today about spending money. That's it. That's all we're going to talk about today. How we spend our money and why we do that. That's it. I didn't announce very early that this show was happening at this exact same time on the exact same day that we always do it. But either way, thank you to everybody for coming in. Bob Flynn, who I think must have gotten in the chat the minute I posted the video. Bob said, I pay to win the game. Bob Franklin, another Bob, 1 minute later, talking about paying for server data. Everything else comes from public sources like team websites, Twitter, and press releases. And Anyan on the podium as well. So congratulations to you three. Thanks for coming in. Mike Basson was too late. Pants are back on now. Now we're not watching. So Mike, hopefully you can figure out your pants situation and watch later. Yeah. John Andrews, what's up? Vice. Surfula in the house. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Steve, another Bob. We're just like flooded with Bobs today. Stefan, what's up? Blue Tomatoes, thank you for watching. Nixon, I seem to be willing to pay for footballers who have moved to Saudi or Qatar within a week. Yeah, those are always a bummer. Glenn, what's up? Jordan, Mike, still willing to be here despite the pants situation. Kika, when MLB content though? Yeah, I did kind of promise. Well, I absolutely did not promise MLB content, but I'm just not. I don't want to just like have the here's what I'm thinking about baseball every week, because I just don't think about baseball that much, and that's sort of the problem. And particularly this time of year where all the European football leagues start up again, it's really tough to introduce new content. My guess is I'll do stuff. If I do MLB content, it'll be for next season, not necessarily at the start of next season, but we'll see. Gavin, what's up? Simo, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit, so I'm glad he's here. Graham, TJ, thank you guys. That's right, Mike. Hit the button, hit the like button, please, please. Alex, Hoodwink. If I had a beer that I could cheers you with, I would do so, but I don't. I only have water, and I think that's bad luck. And Angelo, happy Friday to you. Mike said, wasn't your MLB content idea when you got bored of Euros? Yeah, that's definitely when, yeah. A lot of my new content ideas come out of boredom of what is happening. And sometimes I implement them and sometimes I don't. Server Turkey, I couldn't even use server data to build my lineups, let alone submit them. There were so many bugs with the lineup builder. Yeah, we got crashed this like today, 2 hours before the deadline, which I don't think is like the ideal time to build lineups. I know that like you don't want to hear that now, but I would recommend doing lineups ahead of time. And we've kind of been clear that waiting until the last minute to import them or export them and then import them is probably not great yet. Sorare's own website was a little slow today as well, but yeah, it's back-to-back Fridays for us, which infuriates us all internally. And so we're doing everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen again, but I don't know. DNP Donkey, thanks for coming in. Yeah, it's like I said, like we all are doing our lineups. I had some frustration with Sorare today because I had a fairly poor champion rare lineup. And so I wanted to play it in Division 4 where I never had an entry, and it literally wouldn't let me. Apparently I have a Division 1 entry, which I didn't even know I had. And my Division 2 one I know I've used because it's named after a fruit. I think it was cherry. And so I wanted this bad one, Division 4, so that I didn't have to worry about getting relegated. And it wouldn't export to where I wanted it to. And then I tried to make the change on Sorare itself, and it still wouldn't save. And then as I was finally figuring out that I just had to eat it and take my Division 2 entry, which I think I will get relegated from with this lineup, I ended up putting a guy in who was known to be out. He was not in my Sorare data draft. And so it's not like I had him. It was Gaetan Laborde from Nice. He was not in my lineup on Sorare data. While I was putting the lineup in individually, I saw him and I was like, oh, I guess I didn't use him. And so I put him in. Had I used Sorare data to put him in, it would have been obvious that he was out. And so, yeah, I already got a DMP, totally my own fault. But Mike saying, was the D4 side going to be Gooseberry? I don't think I've used gooseberry yet. So I guess it's possible. It could have been gooseberry. Looking through my teams this week, in terms of what I've submitted, my Prem one doesn't seem to be named, which, oh, that's right. So I have a new Prem one because I went into Prem D4 because I have basically an Everton stack away to Spurs, which didn't feel ideal. Let's see what we got. Cherry was the champion lineup that I think will get relegated. I've got in Challenger, I have banana, guava, watermelon, pomegranate, strawberry, lime, honeydew, orange, and boysenberry. And then in Contender, I've got coconut, blueberry, raspberry, grape, passion fruit, peach, plum, pear, tangerine, and lychee. And I have not named my U23 teams because I'm not even sure you can yet. I mean, I assume you can, but yeah. So that's what I got going on. So yeah, I guess gooseberry could be coming in. Anyway, Hoodwing said I used the button for the first time yesterday and was great. Then any changes in Sorare today? I think ideally you can make your change in Sorare data and then re-export them. That's the goal, but obviously today was a little wonky, so apologies for that. City Keen, happy Friday. Thanks for coming in. I don't recognize that name, so if you're new, welcome. Or if you've been a lurker, thank you for unlurking. Alex, yeah, sad. It is a sad one for a Friday. TJ said, I had that issue, but I set it manually in Sorare to activate the previously unused team. It took a little while, but eventually I was able to then submit via Sorare data afterwards. So I'm glad that actually worked because I did that too, and it didn't work for me. And it was just frustrating. Like what was actually super frustrating is that it was keeping 2 players in that I had exported initially. And it just wouldn't save. It was, oh man, it was infuriating. Yeah. Mike said, I should name the Everton one Potato, as that's not a fruit and Everton aren't a real football team. Okay, I'll look into that. Kai, thanks for coming in. Yeah, it's just, we're getting there. And I think the Sorare UI, and actually Gator guy sent me a message about this today, that doing changes in the Sorare UI actually wasn't that bad today. And I think it's just one of those things to steal, not that he came up with this phrase, but MPen kind of said it about changes on Sorare. Eventually it just becomes part of the furniture. And I think the new UI for the lineup submitting is like, we'll get used to it. It's fine. I don't use it to input my lineups. And I actually sent this video that I was taking. The biggest frustration I have with the UI, literally the single biggest one, is when you are scrolling your players, it keeps wanting to pick up the, or it's like a hover. Let me see if I can even pull this up. Can I do it here? Because it is something that it's infuriating to me. Let's see. Can I show this? I don't think so. Well, maybe I can do it this way. Oh, hold on. Please hold. I don't think that's going to work. Oh, well. Anyway, basically it's like when you're scrolling through, it shows you I hate having, I can't find the words to this. Let me think of I have a different way that I can share this with you guys. Where is this video? Oh, it has to be MP4, of course. I know this is riveting content of watching me stumble around my desktop looking for this video, but I promise you it's riveting content. All right. Will this work, guys? All right. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to stay on screen. Oh, I am. And how do I play it? Here we go. So this is the screen. And when you scroll through and then all of a sudden it has that pop up for the game that's going to happen. And even when you hover, when you move over to the side, it still shows it and I can't scroll. And it's just infuriating. It would, As stupid as that sounded, it was just infuriating. Yeah, Hoodwink, it takes up half the page with the fixture details. I just don't need it. Like I get that people need it. I just don't. Blue Tomato said use the scroll bar. So that's like, I actually find that worse. Having to like, I don't know, whatever. There are a bunch of like quirky things like that I just don't think the UI is meant for people with a lot of lineups. And most people don't have a ton of lineups. I don't want to say that. Like, I think it was 3/4 of the lineups from last game week were people with fewer than 10. Now, like 9 is a lot still to like go through this, but it's just not crisp. That's all. Yeah. Agent Cooper said, I have only good things to say about the button. Saved me over an hour of tedious admin. I'd say it's the best thing to happen to Sorare since the 210 threshold with a common goalkeeper. Congrats. That was 205. We didn't even need 210. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think I was putting the numbers together. I think it was just under 28% of managers who played last weekend had at least 10 lineups. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I think Pranksy is top this game week with, or no, I'm sorry, Nanzo is top this game week with 121 lineups. And Pranksy, I think, is at 119. I think it was 2 more. And so it's just a lot. I wouldn't dream of trying to put that many lineups in manually. And before the button, they probably had like 70, and it's still a ton that the new UI just doesn't feel like it's made for it. And so I don't know if I don't know what the plan is for that. Mike's saying, what was the max this game week? I don't know, but I thought the regular, it's usually, I think it was 136 is the number that sticks out in my mind. 136 like possible lineups, and that's like with the regular competitions. And then obviously this week we have 12 more from anti-stacks, because you can do 3 in all 4 scarcities. And then we have the French League special. So I assume it's over 150 this game week. Like, I don't know if, I mean, I guess we could, I don't care to look enough to see if Pranksy and Nanzo like max entered the French League special in every scarcity. I can't imagine the unique. Now I'm curious. Let's see. Although, well, I guess it's been 2 hours. Maybe we have imported all of the lineups. But let's see what the French League special unique leaderboard looks like. Anti-stack is probably this one. Yeah, I don't think we have it in yet. Yeah, our anti-stack. Yeah, it's just unnamed, I guess. I mean, how many lineups could there be in the? Well, I guess there are a lot. It's basically all-star and anti-stack. Hoodwink said, big fan of the anti-stacks. I'd become a boring stacker, and it made me think more about my actual lineups rather than 5-man stacks. It's funny you say that, because I saw your comment today in the Sorare feedback. Not because of that comment. It was just above a comment that I was actually sent to about how bad people who have midweek South American cards are. I'm one of them. I will also say this coming game week, like the midweek, with Cap 270 as being the only option. Is that actually the only option you can play? Let's see. We have Cap 270, La Liga, and Champion. Those are the only things that we have, and U23. And my players are like, I have way too many players with high L15s that it's like a legitimate, like, feels like a slap on the face. I loved building for anti-stacks, if only because I played like I did. I think what I did was probably suboptimal, but I did it just for fun. And like, this is from my River Plate collection, but they all play for different teams now. And literally none of them play for River Plate. So it was fun. It was fun. Yeah. Hoodwink said South America one is very poor, has been feedback to the team. So hopefully they realize underdog isn't good enough that week and it gets added later. I mean, frankly, like, there are European qualifiers next week, and those are not good enough for even 270. It's incredibly prohibitive for anyone who has those. And so John Andrew said, I like the idea of anti-stacks, but terrible timing with it being the only place to play any of the 4 Leagues Cup cards. Also, yeah, it's coincidentally infuriating. So yeah, anyway. But yeah, Dodzilla, thanks for checking in from Twitch. Way to be. Meese, thanks for coming in. And Agent Cooper, I don't think I could ever enter 151 teams. I just couldn't face the shame of entering that many and coming up empty on rewards. Not a problem for Nanzo, I'm sure. Surely 150, you'd get something in. Yeah. The funny thing about Blue Tomato said you're lucky they aren't checking it manually, otherwise you'd get disqualified. No, I had a Ren one, like from my Ren collection. I tried to do a Midtjylland one. Like, it was kind of that was almost sort of the point of putting those collections together, is like at some point you could play them all. Like, I always tried to play my Ren guys together, and I know it's suboptimal, but like, I just find that part fun. And so being able to do that in this competition, specifically, that's like anti-stacks, I think there are going to be a lot of stupid lineups in that competition, and everybody keeps quoting how many entries there are, mostly because it's like the only all-star possible lineup that you can put in this game week outside of U23. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's suboptimal. And I kind of hope that whoever wins it has a collection like me and River Plate. And I just hope I win it, is really what I meant to say. Anyway, the topic today, now that I'm 17 minutes in, almost 18 minutes in, was about spending money. And it wasn't so much about spending money on Sorare or on Sorare data, although those are certainly things that we'll get into. But part of it came up from a discussion, a tweet from Mark Simons earlier it was yesterday? Wednesday. And Mark is 1/3 of the Make It a Double Double podcast. And he is basically the brains and the looks for Sorare Sevens. And so he just tweeted and said, hey, Sorare community, I've decided to spend £20 a month to support more Sorare content creators on top of those I'm already subscribed to. Shout out to not saying who you're subscribed to. Like, I actually meant that. And then he said, comment below which YouTube channels, Patreons, etc. I should look at, and feel free to comment your own or your recommendations. So I will say that I think this is awesome that Mark is doing that. I'm not saying that everybody should go do that, even though that's what I mean. But it also made me start to think about some of the feedback that I saw about Sorare data within the last few months. And part of it is this time of year, we have, people's like annual memberships may be coming up for renewal. And every time that happens for any service, you're kind of like, oh, do I want to keep this going? And I have mentioned before, but I'm going to say it again, that all of the Sorare data content that comes out, like these daily streams or any of the stuff that's on Twitter or our any of the stuff on our Medium posts, like all the content we do is free. It's free because of people who have Sorare data memberships. And basically the way this works is very different than any other membership plan that you have anywhere kind of in the Sorare space, that there are people who have their own Patreons, or they have YouTube channels like Harry and Quinny that have memberships on there. So the Sorare data the Sorare data YouTube channel and Twitch and everywhere is free, but all of it is doable because of Sorare Data memberships, which get you access to everything on Sorare Data, like the site, all the tools, the el button, if you will. And so the Blue Tomato said, "You're welcome, all non-star members." But honestly, like the way that Sorare Data works is that we are a for-profit company, and we have, I think we're up to, I think it's 12 full-time employees. Somebody will have to fact check me on that one. But Sorare Data memberships that like are our revenue stream right now. And so being able to do all of these streams and all of the content we do is because of those Sorare Data memberships, because that's literally what pays our bills. And so and Mike said, aren't we just paying for a service though? I think you can make the argument that all you're doing is paying for everything that's on Sorare Data that you get from a Sorare Data Star membership. But literally the money that goes in there eventually comes to me because I'm an employee of Sorare Data, and I'm able to do all of these things because of that. And so if you're somebody who's like, oh, I do like to support content, but I don't really use Sorare Data that much, being able to become a Sorare Data Star member helps essentially pay for this content. And we're kind of in a little bit of a different spot than a lot of other content creators, particularly because so many people kind of do it on their free time. And if you look at all of the kind of the lineup predictors on the lineup predicting sites, like they are getting, I assume, some sort of revenue share. I don't know if they're getting paid. I don't know how it works, but like, I don't know if they're getting paid a flat fee and they just do it or whatever it is. Not my business, but it's just something that allows people who are taking their time to do work that we don't want to do, and they're doing it, and so we pay them for it. And so the whole idea of paying for content specifically, and I'm going to move away from like paying for Sorare Data for any of the tools, the lineup builder, or literally everything else that we have on the site. Like that's one thing. And then the content side of things is most people who do content don't do it as their full-time job. And part of that is because like Sorare is just not big enough to like sustain a full content community of people talking about it all the time. This isn't the Premier League where like millions of people are watching. We're just not there yet. And we even talked about it a little bit on Sorare Andrews yesterday when John Nellis came on, and he was like, he wanted Sorare content to be so great that would have been his job. And he just recognized that it wasn't going to be it. And frankly, I think John, like Sorare content would have held John back. And because he recognized that there was a ceiling basically on Sorare content, he pivoted to what he does now, which obviously has been wildly successful, and he deserves every ounce of that. Well, maybe not. Alex probably deserves most of it, but John's there too. But the people who create content and essentially ask to be paid for that content by using a Patreon or some sort of subscription service is just their way of making the time that they spend on all of that work worth it. And that doesn't mean that they think they're going to be rich or that they'll be able to like quit their full-time jobs, but it does allow them maybe sometimes to, go on holiday, go out to dinner, whatever it is that people spend their money on. Maybe they just want to buy more Sorare cards too. But I think it's important that people are paid for their content. And I kind of joined, I don't want to call it like the content community, but I've been doing content for like a decade, I mean, more, not Sorare content for a decade, but like I've worked in content a long time. And there's just a lot of like free content, meaning unpaid content, I'll put it that way, or very low paid. And it's crushing sometimes, where you like work really, really hard and there's just very little benefit financially, because at some point you're just like, this isn't worth it. Like you could do it because you love it for only so long, like honestly. And So Mark's tweet that he was going to spend 20 pounds a month, which, like, I'm not saying everybody can afford to do that. Mark can, I assume. And so I thought it was really great that he was doing that. And it then subsequently reminded me of a conversation that I was not a part of this conversation, but it was in a Discord that I'm in. So it was kind of fun to watch. But it was a few months ago about people deciding whether they were going to keep their Sorare Data memberships. And one of the tricky things about our business, meaning Sorare Data's business, over the last few years is that when we used to get $25 for scoring 205 points in All-Star with a common, that's literally 2.5 months worth of a Sorare Data membership. And so it was like an easy sell. It's like, hey, we can help you get some thresholds. And once you get a few, it's all paid for. It's like easy. But then, when threshold got a little harder or prices started drastically falling, everyone's like, I don't really have this extra money to do that. And so that's something obviously that we've had to address as a company. And it doesn't really change a lot what we are doing, but it probably slows down our expansion, because if not as many people want to pay for a Sorare Data membership, obviously there's a cap to what we can do people wise, because we are like full-time employees. Like, this is our job. And a thriving business can obviously grow a lot faster than one that, and I'm not saying that like we're struggling, but obviously the bigger Sorare gets, the bigger theoretically we should get, right? Hopefully. And I'm going to keep going, but I apologize. I've been like ignoring the chat. And so I don't want to get too far behind, because I will literally never catch up. Anyan said, Chani convinced me to immediately get Sorare Data, so I don't even know what features you don't have without a Star membership. Shout out to Chani for that. And thank you, Anyan, for doing that. Graham said, so you are our employee is the way I'm hearing this. Kind of. Godzilla said, just signed up for Sorare Data for a month. I'm sure I'll continue with the tips it gave. Yeah, thank you. Because I do find, I'm guessing that once you start using all of the tools that are available for a Star membership, it's tough to not use them. But I also appreciate that not everybody can spend the money, 10 pounds, euros, or dollars a month. TJ, I agree. That Sorare Andrews yesterday was great. It was just, perfect timing how it worked out. Investor Durst asked, how many employees does Sorare Data have? I think we're at 12 full-time employees right now. Most of them are, well, I don't know if it's most, actually. Maybe half are devs, and then we have some designers and me. Agent Cooper said, Sorare Data streams are the Premier League of streams. Just not sure if it's the English or the Russian Premier League, but hey, I love them. Simo said, in order to fund this 20 pound a month support for Sorare content, he had to cancel his donation to the Guide Dogs for the Blind to pay for it. Priorities, Simo, priorities. David said, did I hear Quinny saying that next week is the last game week preview that he's going to do? I watched the whole thing. I don't remember him saying that. Oh, and John said the last one from his studio. Yeah, there you go. Investor Durr said, if you got a gallery, 500 euros or more Sorare Data is a must. But yes, Mike, you are paying my wages. Like, literally. Thresholds was the best and worst thing that happened to Sorare. It was the best thing that happened to Sorare managers, and it was the worst thing that happened to Sorare. Pika said, I would sign up instantly if Sorare Data helped with ROI calculation. I mean, it certainly helps. Surely it helps. Will to Win, which is not a name I'm familiar with here, so thanks for coming in. I don't even know how I would play Sorare without Sorare Data at this point. I agree. The button alone is worth the subscription. I think so. Rikomon said, I just got my free month from Sorare 7s. Yeah. Let's go. Blue Tomato said, would you call yourself a dev? I mean, you work on the API. I am like no, I'm the furthest thing from a dev. Trust me, you want me nowhere near that stuff. Yeah. TJ said the best value for money ever spent on Sorare content was the Sorare Andrews theme song. What was funny is that on the outro of the show yesterday, Nellis had obviously never heard that, and I could like watch him, and he's just like banging around, and I was like, see, I knew you'd like it. Oh, Will to Win said I'm a constant lurker. Had some interactions on X. Hell yeah, not a lurker anymore. Now you got to get all in. Tom Brimson said 0.1% or less of Twitch streamers are able to make that a job, for example, and they talk into a camera for 8+ hours a day. I don't know how Nep does as long as he does. He's obviously in that 0.1%, but yeah, like I look and I'm like, oh, he's been streaming for 8.5 hours straight. It's wild. Hilo said, I'd argue if Sorare never had threshold, it never would have gotten the big boom and maybe would have faded into the fewer than 1,000 user shadow realm. Totally agree. Yeah. And who was it recently that said that? Was it Peter or Mike, maybe MPen? Oh man, I apologize if it was somebody else, but somebody said were thresholds like the greatest marketing tool ever. And it was like, maybe did get a lot of people in. And there's a lot of content out there about like the cheapest cards to buy to just farm ETH all the time. So anyway, back to the Sorare data thing. Excuse me. So this was on Discord. Now I have a tickle in my throat. This is the content you guys are paying for, right? Excuse me. Okay. So back to this Discord conversation. And the conversation was basically, and I think this was before we got the prize pools for in season and before this week, obviously, when Nep was like, it's basically free money. But the conversation was essentially, can we still yield enough to pay for Sorare data membership? Like for our Sorare winnings to pay for a Sorare data membership. And which I thought was actually a really interesting discussion because we had previously gone, and I don't think we use this very often, of the use your threshold to pay for Sorare data, but like surely we must have mentioned it at some point. And so when that's not really available anymore, that's not available anymore. And so the idea is now, if you're somebody who's considering a Sorare data membership, which is $100 a year, dollars, euros, pounds, it's $100 a year. If you want to do that, now you have to return at least $100 on your Sorare account, like cards, before you're even up for the year. You know, it's like you have the cost of your cards and then you add $100 and then that's what you have to get back just to get back to even. And that's how a lot of people thought of it, because previously it was just like, oh yeah, let me just bang out three or two big thresholds or four little ones, and then the rest of the year the money's mine. And so it was just like easy to see how you pay off this membership. And somebody else chimed in and was like, I don't even consider that part of the cost. That's just something that I pay. It's essentially like a Netflix or a Spotify membership. And it just like, it kind of helps me in a number of ways. And I don't use that as trying to decide if the ROI pays off. And I appreciated that line of thinking, obviously, because I don't want anyone to, like, realistically, I don't want anyone to think, oh, I have to make even more money just to afford Sorare data. Like, the point is, we hope that you get enough value out of Sorare data, not just your ROI from the game, but just enjoyment and using the tools and scouting and a lot of like peripheral things like that it makes it worth it for you. But I'm wondering if other people are doing this now that we have these two kind of bigger lineup three lineup projection services, excuse me. And whether people are thinking about that now of, I don't have a very big gallery. And so I want to make sure I never get a DMP. So I'm going to subscribe to this site that tells me who's going to start each week. And it doesn't feel like, maybe it's because they basically launched post threshold, that people aren't necessarily thinking or building that into their cost of playing Sorare, which I think is the right thing to do. But it's kind of odd to me that Sorare data, which I personally feel like offers way more, is part of the calculation, but these other ones aren't. And frankly, maybe people aren't actually counting Sorare data. And now that I'm saying this out loud, they're like, maybe I should be doing that. And if that's the case, just forget everything I've said. But if you were previously thinking that, then that's it. Agent Cooper said Gary V plus thresholds equal Joao Felix for 100 ETH. I actually sold that Joao Felix today to who was it? Sorare. Hold on. Predictology offered me 99.9 ETH, and I was willing to take it. So just waiting for that offer to come through. You just let me know. Boston Sean, who is checking in from Massachusetts. Membership is worth it just for the button. I got an extra hour of sleep last night thanks to the button. Sleep is very important. I'm an early bedtime person, but I also wake up kind of early. And yeah, it hits. And speaking of sleeping, Simo said, they say you shouldn't skimp on buying a good quality mattress as you spend a third of your life in bed. Similar on my outlook to paying for content. Probably spend 20 plus hours a week listening. So it's only £1 an hour. Yeah, I think that's a great, and I'm fully on board with the don't skip on a quality mattress, to be honest. Yeah. Investor said we should stop thinking about Sorare and Sorare data on an ROI basis. When you buy a PC game, you don't expect ROI. To me, Sorare data is a game I pay for, 100% worth it. So I actually disagree a little bit that you shouldn't think about Sorare on an ROI perspective, because there's really no way to know. There's no better way to know how well you're doing in the game. Like, it's one thing to, like, you can have fun, and that's totally cool. And a lot of people have fun doing things they're really bad at. And that doesn't mean they want to be bad at it, but there are some things that you just like, you don't know if you're getting better at it or if you're good at it. And with Sorare, particularly now with the new in-season competitions, it's very easy to know, like, how much money have I spent? How much money have I won? And that's kind of how you know if you're good at the game or if you've been really lucky. And not everything kind of allows you to do that. The example I had in my head right now, and actually came from somebody else, was like, if you're somebody who works out a lot, you do a lot of strength training, the easiest thing to do is track how much weight you lift. Like, if you used to do 15-pound dumbbell curls and now you can do 20, it's like, that's progress because you can hold more. And not every game like allows you to know if you're better. Like, you in golf, which is just a total money suck, but the more you play, hopefully you get better, your scores go down, and that's how you know you're doing well. And so I think that ignoring ROI in Sorare is okay, as long as you don't care how you're doing. And that's okay. If you don't care how you're doing and you're just like, this is fun, and I'm just going to keep spending money, and I want to, keep chasing these jackpot prizes, like, that's cool. But if you really like, I don't know a better way to know if you're doing well in the game than ROI, really. Or how many Ren cards you've collected. That's another way to do it. Blue Tomato said, I see it as a Netflix Twitch subscription too, because of my gallery size, it wouldn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, but again, it's like it makes, yeah, I guess I struggle with saying that it doesn't make sense, depending on, like, if you have a smaller gallery, I still think Sorare becomes much easier if you use Sorare data, but that doesn't make it worth it. Like, everybody has their own financial situation and their own goals of what they want to spend their money on. And so I'm not going to tell you that, like, yeah, if you play Sorare or with even $100 worth. I don't know. I don't know what the if there's an appropriate cutoff. I do think that everybody who has a star membership benefits greatly from the game, and I don't know if ROI alone is enough to tell you if the membership is worth it. But like I've also had a membership the entire time, and so it's tough for me to say how great it is without it. I don't know. Mike Basson said, "Oh, cool! So I made next year's membership last game week." There we go. Grem says, "I can confirm I've bought a couple players based on the improve your lineup recommendations." Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Hopefully we get them right. Bob Flynn said, "It's not ROI until you take it out of Sorare, which very few people do. These calculations become moot as most buy more cards with the money they win, attempting to chase that golden egg." Yeah, but like unrealized ROI is still allows you to know if you're doing well or not, right? Like you don't necessarily have to cash out before you know that you're better. And you said, "I always thought of Sorare data as a tool to help doing my Sorare stuff and realized very soon the tools are paying for itself, at least for me." Yeah, it's just a matter of how you think they're paying. Like if you had like a lineup in your head and then you go to our lineup builder and it helps you identify a different player and you play them and then you win, does that make it worth it or no? I don't know. The gym also helps you know how tight your LAFC shirt is. Yeah, that's shout out to Fripp. Mike said, "First off, let me say that what providers have done isn't wrong, but it seems like free info turned into having to pay for that info when thresholds disappeared." I don't know what that means, Mike. You talking about I don't know. Bob said, "Ignoring ROI allows you to enjoy the game and as a result be better at it without as many barriers to success." I will agree, absolutely agree with that. That an intense focus on ROI absolutely creates barriers to success, as weird as that sounds. And I think a lot of people would be better off not focusing on ROI so much, not because of experiencing fun in the game, but I think you actually end up like losing some ability to recognize other ways to play that may end up being more beneficial for you ROI wise. But because you just like only focus on ROI, you kind of get like tunnel vision on your plan. Yeah. Kanana said, "For me, I have to have Sorare data to play Sorare. I've quit Sorare a few times, but whenever I've come back, always subscribe to Sorare data." Well, thank you very much for doing that. And I'm glad you keep coming back. Yeah. Neil Bunting, "Hey, new Sorare user started in the past few weeks. I use Sorare data to look at games, leaderboards, price charts, etc., but can't think of why I should upgrade to Star when I have just 4 teams." Okay, that's like really helpful feedback. So Neil, do you ever make your teams ahead of time? Like if you want to make your lineups for next week and just see where you are. But I guess like I'm actually curious because like you just have 4 teams. Like, are they 4 unique teams? Are they super rares? Like I think ultimately you're going to get to a point where you will have more than 4. And honestly, like the lineup builder does so many things and there are countless ways of like what the best feature is in the lineup builder. But for me personally, it's just organizing my cards and seeing where they are. Like I can't really do that on Sorare that well. Sorare also doesn't have like all of the information I want to make my lineups. And I think a lot of people with few lineups kind of just run the same lineups every week. And I think they'll learn that that's actually probably not the optimal way to play. But that's nice feedback, Neil. And I'm not saying that I think Sorare data is necessary for everyone to have success on the platform. I think it makes the game a lot easier. And even with 4 teams, you still get a lot of benefits, like price alerts. If you are like, you're always looking to upgrade your teams. Nobody has like 4 teams and they're just like, this is it, I'm set, I'm never doing anything again. Sometimes there is a player you're kind of interested in, and maybe they're a little too expensive right now, and the price alert helps you. If card prices start to drop and it gets to a position where you want to pay, and like something like that, I think is really beneficial. Agent Cooper said, imagine a special weekly competition where Sorare data is shut down. I think it would be the toughest competition ever. All Sorare data star members would be in full panic mode. I mean, I would be in panic mode for sure. Godzilla said, I tried the 72 hours and won cash in the in-season prem, so I thought I was right to repay at least a month I won with the trial. Congrats on winning cash. I mean, that's what a lot of people are here for. So I'd love to hear that we helped. Cooper said, sometimes you don't realize how good something is until it's gone. Yeah, I think people also kind of forget what Sorare data looked like before we had memberships. And I actually meant to go back on some older videos, but like there was a time where Sorare data was completely free and there just wasn't that much on the site. And I like to think that over the last 2 years, we've made significant improvements to it and that it's worth the membership now. But like there are some things on the site now that I don't think we ever dreamed of. And obviously it's because Sorare has changed a lot, but we got a lot of pushback at the beginning, understandably, because, when something is free for a while and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're going to have to pay for this. There's understandable pushback. And I think what was kind of misunderstood at the time was like, we did this so that we could make Sorare data even better. And it gets to a point, any project gets to a point where it's just, there's too much to do for either one person or a couple people in their spare time. And at some point it's got to be worthwhile, and not just worthwhile financially, but like, or even if it is financially, it's like, hey, I need to pay somebody else to do this part of this project that I have now. And like, ultimately you don't get far enough by just having a bunch of people working for free in their spare time. And the ceiling that we saw for Sorare data, which we're not remotely close to yet, just required more people. And like that's why Sorare data became the company that it is. Like I said, the league specific info providers becoming paid. So like, I get it. Like at some point, like those people are doing like even lineup projections. You're paying for somebody to do the legwork for you. And I appreciate that it's not a great feeling when you use something, when you're used to getting all of this stuff for free. And the number of times where you're like, man, I can't believe they do this for free. It's worth whatever. And they're like, okay, we're going to start charging. And everyone's like, what the hell? But it's like, it's okay to do the work yourself if you have the time and are willing to do it. But if not, then sometimes you got to pay somebody else. All right, Neil, I've got Forest Limited plus a few rares, Leganés Limited plus a few rares plus a Fortuna stack. Yeah, so like if those are the only 3 teams you care about, and I'm actually super curious. And Neil said my lineups basically pick themselves as long as they're fit, which is not true for anti-stacking. But yeah, I think if that's how you want to play the game, like just with those 3 teams, that's fine. But I think at some point, if you have success with those, you're going to want to expand. And it's the expansion that starts to make your use of Sorare data go up, to be honest. Like what teams do you want to go after, or what competitions do you want to go after? And we just have like a number of tools that make that process easier. And maybe you can do it all on a rookie membership, and like, that's cool. Like we're not upset at you for doing that. But I think at some point the game will become not difficult, but it'll just become way easier. to organize it all with a star membership. I agree with Blue Tomatoes here. The lineup builder alone is worth it. Yeah. Sorare Josh said, I think the price of the other sites is pretty high when you compare it to the price of a Sorare Data membership. And with how low card prices are, it's natural people can only spend so much. Yeah, I don't want to opine on the price of other memberships, because maybe they are actually appropriately priced and Sorare Data is too cheap. In fact, I've had that conversation with PSU fans numerous times, that I think the actual value price of Sorare Data, meaning like compared to what else is on the market and compared to what you get on Sorare Data, and I don't think many people would pay this, but I think it's worth at least $50 a month, if not 10 times that, for like the bigger galleries. And it's not. And I'm not saying that like we're never going to raise prices. I don't have any idea if we have that in the plans. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth way more than the price that we charge right now. And the fact that card prices are not that expensive makes it a little more difficult to say like, oh yeah, we're going to charge more, except what card prices cost shouldn't really affect the value of what we provide. People look at it that way because they're just like, oh yeah, I'm playing Sorare and Sorare Data helps me, and like that's it. But yeah, I think we provide way more value than what we charge. And yeah, I don't know what comes next. Neil said, I think if you had an entry-level membership, maybe €2 without some of the more complicated stuff new managers don't need, like mass lineups, et cetera, I'd be interested. To be honest, I don't even think you need like mass lineups to take advantage of the lineup builder and the export feature, because I think I experienced it literally today, of manually inputting lineups, that there's a risk that you just misclick. And if you're on Sorare Data and you're like looking at it a bunch, and maybe you just do this on Sorare, it's certainly possible. I don't want to say like you can only review lineups on Sorare, on Sorare Data, but I think it's just easier to build that way. And yeah, you don't mess up like I did today, having to manually input it on Sorare. It was a thing, Neil. There was a pro membership, which was half the price, but to be honest, we had so many questions from users about like why one thing was available for stars and why some were it was end up. Jonathan said I bought the pro for 2 years. Yeah, there was just too much complication in like what was for star and what was for pro, and any new features we came out, it's like, is this a star feature? Is it? And it just got confusing, to be honest. Like enough people got confused by it that we got rid of it, and now we have just the star for now. Blue Tomato said, Vonetsek assist. I have him captained, so let's go. Hilo said, what are your thoughts on no longer rewarding Sorare coins? Think they silently disappear from the site. I've got 200, and let's see what the... oh, sorry, I clicked out. Somebody wants my Benjamin Stambouli super rare for $1.13. It's probably fair price. I have 212,830 coins. I'd like to do something with them. Rikoman said, did you guys add more people for the Rainmakers side of things? I don't think we ever hired like specific Rainmakers people. It was always kind of like you could do both. And honestly, we got to a point where it was like, we actually need you on Sorare Data full time. And I think we would have really struggled resource wise if Rainmakers and Rainmetrics was to be built the same as Sorare Data. It would have taken like I think Sorare Data has greatly benefited from the people we hired to do sort of both, if that makes sense. Yeah. Major NFT said, my biggest challenge is that I'm stuck paying in euros instead of Canadian, and the conversion rate sucks. Can you not pay in dollars? Like, anybody should be able to pay in any currency, regardless of where you live. You just obviously have to have that currency in your account. John said, without Sorare data, the scores to win anything would be much lower, which is funny. I've never heard that before. Mike said, do you think Sorare data will ever go back to having an intermediate membership package? If anything, the Sorare, the star membership will be the intermediate. Ricomon said, price linked to gallery value. So, like, why should your gallery determine how much you pay? And maybe this ends up being like a more political conversation, which I'm not going down, but like, we're providing the service regardless. And so whether you have, $10, $1,000, $1 million in your gallery, like, the tools we provide are the same. So, like, I'm not sure why gallery value should determine how much you pay. Like, what other company does that? Maybe there are, and I'm just not thinking of it. Waze, maybe. I misclicked twice on Sorare today, only caught it on a whim 5 minutes before deadline. I wish mine was like not technically a misclick, but I wish I had recognized it. Glenn said, hopefully they will be redeemable for tickets or essence. Speaking of Sorare coins, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Major NFT said, can't change it in Stripe. I don't know. Will to win, will you ever start producing baseball or basketball content again? Also, something cool to add to Sorare data would be to see what baseball cards have one use similar to what you can see in football. Yeah, there are a bunch of baseball and basketball stuff like that is greatly lags for the biggest reason that the APIs are different from Sorare. And so it's not like we can just copy all of the code for what we do for football and just put it over to MLB and NBA and just say, like, change every football to MLB. So, excuse me, there's a significant amount of work to do it. And in all honesty, since that's what we're doing here today, the level of not engagement, but just the number of people who play baseball and basketball is so much smaller than football. And we have basically limited resources, meaning only so many people that can work on something, and the things that we want to do on the football side. It's honestly tough to prioritize baseball or basketball over football. And that doesn't mean that we're like giving up on them, but I'm the only one who wants to like really push for baseball and basketball. And I don't know if that's because they're like the bigger games here or whatever, or I just care about them more. But it's basically like, hey, do we want to do the button, or do we want to make baseball rewards more visible? And it's just a tough sell. It's unfortunate. And maybe as the football season kind of moves on, and obviously the frustrating thing about football is that the season never ends. But maybe, as we get further into the European season, like, there were a lot of things that we wanted to get out by the season start. The button is obviously one of the big ones, and the card recommendations, those were big things that came to us. And I have to say, we have a few more things coming in the next month or two that are really, really cool, and I think will greatly help the site. Like, as we saw, like, the struggles that we had today. And I think some of the things that we're doing kind of behind the scenes will help in that in the future. And there are just going to be some like big changes, and they're not going to be obvious to you guys in a lot of respects, again, proving that I am not a developer at all, but like, there's basically stuff, how the pages are built and how it pulls certain data to show, the market or scores or whatever it is. We're working on essentially making those pages more efficient, and so that they don't have as much of a drain on our servers. And so Those are things that like we work on, and because Sorare data grows, we're going to have to experience more people using the site, which is like a good thing. But also we need to develop tools on the back end that can handle all of that traffic. And so there are plenty of things that you will see, like significant improvements on some of the tools that you use every single day. But a lot of the stuff is like behind the scenes. And so it's stuff that we have to do, and that it takes time to do those things. But I think it's gonna be benefit everybody who uses the site for sure. Simo said, "Do you think Sorare appreciate the importance of Sorare data in the success of the platform? Couldn't name you any other third-party website which holds such a significant importance to a main site than Sorare data." I think they do. I think they do. And I realize that I am like struggling to answer this question very easily, because I think the appreciation of Sorare data from Sorare is better now than it was previously. There was a time where I don't think they at all appreciated how much of their user base relied on Sorare data, which is ironic because there are some people within Sorare who like tell people to use Sorare data for certain things. And so I think they recognize it now. I think the button had a big part of it, to be totally truthful. But I also think that Sorare are now going after a specific type of player that may not necessarily need Sorare data right away. But literally, like when I joined Sorare data, and this is when I joined Sorare long time ago, there was like no info on Sorare. And so they were like, oh yeah, just go use Sorare data to like figure it all out. And I'll be the first to admit that Sorare data can be very daunting, like when you first join, and I should do some more content to kind of like help people get around. But it's tough because like you don't know how everybody starts or what they're used to. We do try to put things on Sorare data that Sorare don't do themselves, or that we don't think, or let me rephrase this. There was a time where we were just like, yeah, come to Sorare data to do everything on Sorare that you need to do. And you just use Sorare to put your lineups in and buy cards. And we kind of had to have a shift at some point of doing things that we didn't think Sorare necessarily should be doing. And at the same time, doing things that we think they should be doing, but we didn't think they would do it anytime soon and people want it. So like the points needed for the next reward, like we've had that for years. And that's one thing that we were like, I wonder if Sorare should do that. But we didn't want to wait for them to do it. So we put it on our site. We had it in our app. And Sorare does it now. And it's like, great. Great. But there are some things like in the lineup builder with like sportsbook odds and helping you understand like what's a good matchup. And I don't think Sorare should have that stuff on their site. It's not the place for it. And so I think you need Sorare data, or you don't need it, but like people use Sorare data to find out what the matchup, plenty of us own cards of players, or we've won them. We just don't know anything about these players. We don't know anything about the team. But if you see like, oh, they're a regular starter. Oh, they're a big favorite this week. Okay. Oh, the team they're playing actually gives up a ton of points to right wingers. That's helpful information that like isn't necessarily necessary. I can't believe I just said that. Isn't necessary on Sorare itself. And so sometimes it does feel like we're like competing with them in terms of features that we offer that we think either they should offer or that they don't. But other times I feel like we're obviously built to like help you on Sorare. Like our goal, like literally the point of Sorare data is not for you to spend all day on Sorare data. We love it when you do, but the point is to make you more successful playing Sorare. So like obviously the point eventually is to go to Sorare. And so, but I think that's So no fantasy site in the world has all of the data that you want on their site, because it's not part of it. Like, it takes a lot of work to just build a site that can do everything that Sorare does. And when you think of all of the fantasy sites, and not even just like FPL, but like the major, ESPN or Yahoo, or if you play any other fantasy sports, it takes a lot just to run the game. And Sorare have that, plus this gigantic marketplace that they also have to deal with. And so they're not going to have every tool and every piece of data that you are going to want. And like, there are third-party sites for every fantasy game out there. Like FPL has Fantasy Football Scout, and there's Fantasy Football Fix. Fix, is that one? I don't know. But there are third-party sites in every legitimate fantasy game. And so everybody who like looks at Sorare data and is just like, oh, Sorare should have this, it's like, they shouldn't. And there's no real example of other sites having everything, because it's just that's not their business. Mark, that was not remotely answering your question, but I think yes, I think Sorare is starting to appreciate the importance of Sorare data. So Mike, I want to touch on this. Mike said, I think they do because you're sure they've invested in Sorare data. So there is this awesome conspiracy theory that I keep seeing on Sorare data oh my God, on Twitter, about how Sorare changed their UI to make it more difficult so that people had to subscribe to Sorare data just to use the button. And that they do this because Sorare are investors in Sorare data, and so they make money if we get more subscribers. So let me clear at least a few things up. And this is actually something that Maxime and I talked about on a show like long ago. So yes, Sorare invested into Sorare data. Like, they are an investor in Sorare data. They also have absolutely zero authority to tell us what to do. None. And it would be the equivalent of me buying Apple stock and then expecting Tim Cook to pick up the phone when I call him, which would be funny because I hate talking on the phone. But like, they're an investor and they can give us feedback, sure, but like, they have nothing to do with it. And the amount that they invested is like absurdly tiny to what their company is worth. That an explosion of Sorare data members means nothing to Sorare. If like, they make so much more on, like, if there's an explosion of Sorare data members, it's because there are so many people joining Sorare. That's what Sorare cares about. Like, there was never a point where they invested in Sorare data thinking like this was going to make them $1 billion. If it worked, that's great. I'm all for that. But this idea that like Sorare does anything to like push people to use Sorare data because they invested in it is absurd. Like, absolutely absurd. Sorry. Mustafa, what do you got here? Hey, Laird, what do you think about Sorare in the future changing from 3 in season to 4 classics? Sorry, hold on. 3 in season classics, 2 in season, 5. I have no idea. Still 6 teams and 14 in season would be needed over the current 12. What do you think about this in the future, changing from 3 times in season times 4, classics times 2, to in season 5 and mixed times 2? Still 6 teams. That looks like 3. Like, are you asking if they're just going to use all in season cards instead of allowing you to mix? Sorry, Mustafa. It's been 69 minutes, and so maybe I can't read correctly. Let's see. KB said, thought this started at 6 CET, absolutely shattered. KB, this show is the same time every week. Come on. This one. Neil said, maybe I've missed it, but do you guys have the video explaining the Star membership and what it offers aimed at new managers, a sales pitch as such? We don't have like a traditional one, Neil. We don't. And we should. Let me write that down. Bob Flynn, if you're still here, we got to do a show together. Yeah. Sorry. I'm just literally writing this down. Maybe we should get John Nellis to do that too. Mike said, do you think MLB and NBA are at a level so we're anticipated or better or worse? No, I think it's way worse. Way, way, way worse. But I think a lot of that has to do with like just the general drop in the NFT market. Like I think a lot of it had to do with things completely outside of Sorare's control. And like, what are you going to do? Like I would think Sorare football's at a much lower level than they anticipated 2 years ago when they raised all that money. Major NFT said, I'm just surprised they haven't bought you guys yet. That's Sorare buying Sorare data. So I believe, I don't know if it's public or not, but like years and years ago, I believe that was a discussion. Like I think it was actually before we became a company, or maybe when we first raised money. The biggest reason is not because of Sorare, but it was because of Sorare data. Like if you want to, there's a difference between somebody wanting to buy your company and you wanting to sell your company. And one of the big reasons why we don't really even think about trying to sell ourselves to Sorare is because we play the game. And I think joining Sorare as full employees, I guess you can now play. Sorare employees are allowed to play the game now from using limited and rare cards. But I think that a lot of the tools and a lot of the things that we build on Sorare data come because we play the game. And there are things like, oh, I was trying to do this, or I was trying to look at my lineups this way, or I was trying to look and see which cards won. And there are just a lot of things that tools we develop based on the way that we play the game or feedback that we get of how people play the game. And not being able to play the game like we do would be a humongous detriment to the growth of Sorare data's tools. And so, yeah. Plus, then we probably have to put pants on and go to the office, and who's going to do that? Mike Basson said, Sorare has copied a lot of the info that you provide onto the site now, which is a testament to you guys proving how relevant and important these were in the gameplay. That's a good point. Yeah. I think there was a lot of stuff that they probably knew that they should have on the site, but just, it's a resource thing. Like we've kind of talked about it specifically on the Sorare data side, but even on the Sorare side, like they have limited resources. And, they have all this money, but that doesn't mean you can just like do everything that you want to do right away. And like previous sales, like you go to a player's page and like, it was only a few months ago that they add like the last sales that went through. And even then you still don't really see all of them. And that's why Sorare data kind of exists. But I agree. I don't necessarily want to say they like copied us. Like we may have had the idea at the same time. We just thought it was more of a priority than they did. And so we came out with it two years earlier. Sorare Soul said, Sorare is going to the races and betting on colors or names. Sorare data is getting the form and previous results so you can make an educated bet. Yeah, I think if you could somehow like show the same person building their weekly lineups just on what's on Sorare versus what's on Sorare data, they would make significantly better lineups on Sorare data. And maybe that doesn't apply to people like who was that before? Neil? Neil. Like Neil knows the 3 teams that he collects and the stacks that he plays. So like maybe it actually doesn't make that much of a change for Neil. But I think for people who kind of have more lineups, and the more successful you are on Sorare, you start to acquire cards of maybe guys you don't know or players you don't know, but they're good. And you're like, no, maybe I'll actually keep this player around. And then now you're starting to need more information. Like, is this team any good? What do they normally play? What what have been their previous lineups? Does this guy usually play? If he plays at a different position, does he score as well? And just stuff like that. And so it's I think there's just more that that can come into it. Toby said it's not even just fantasy games. No one really plays FIFA Ultimate Team without using Footbin or that other one that's competing with Footbin. Yeah. Dan Casey, who that's not a name I recognize either. So what up, Dan? FPL is free to play, though, I suppose. It is, and yet people still pay to help them get better at the game. Like Fantasy Football Scout is a subscription site that people pay to play a free game. Now, I'm guessing that most of the people that pay for Fantasy Football Scout, or is Fix the other one? I literally got an email from him, like, join our site or whatever. But I'm imagining the FPL players that pay for that stuff are in, private leagues that people put their money in. But yeah, there are people who are willing to pay to get better at a free-to-play game so that you can win a pen and a notepad at the end of the season. John said, I don't think Sorare is that big anymore. They just can't get big profits with the current model. I mean, I don't know how you're defining big. Obviously, card prices are not what they used to be, but the game is also very different. Then it's more understandable of why card prices move the way that they do. KB showed up late and is now asking me to do another hour. I don't know if I have another. Oh, actually, definitely do not have another hour. I have I don't know how long I'm going to go. But yeah, thank you for reminding me about the fact that I literally have something to do after this. Major NFT said, I think I got screwed. I bought the Star membership long ago and you can't change the currency. I don't think you can change it afterwards. Well, maybe you can. I don't know. Major NFT, I would absolutely send an email to support@soraredata.com and just say, if you pay in euros, how can I pay in another one? And maybe we can figure that out. ZM Star said, getting in late, but just want to say I appreciate all the content you provide on a weekly basis, minus Sean shows. Yeah, I agree. Those are the worst ones of the week for sure. I also miss office hours with Maxine. Yeah. Mike Baston, hey ZM, Auxerre for the win. Auxerre, surely a clean sheet because I sold Donovan Leon today. Blue Tomato said, in theory, could have Sorare just shut down their API, which would make it very hard for Sorare data. Yeah, they absolutely could. I think it would be the opposite of their Web3 open web mantra. And I think that would be debilitating for them. If they ever close the API, I don't think that's ever really a consideration. But that would be really bad for everybody. Josh said, you said Sorare doesn't call Sorare data to tell Sorare data what to do, but can you call Sorare for them to add the full Portuguese league? We don't really want more than that, than what we have. Toby said the Danish Superliga is in Challenger, so clearly Laird has a direct line to Sorare. I had nothing to do with that. I would love to, if I had anything to do with that, you better believe I would tell everybody I had something to do with that. Yeah. Mike said, agree that Sorare data wouldn't be where it is today if Sorare took Sorare data over way back then. Like we've always said, they see the game differently than we do. I think it's really difficult to see the game as a player if you're not a player. And Sorare do have more people playing the game now, internally, but you'll never, as the game owner, you're never going to understand every single way that that users play. And so it's, yeah, you just need you need the feedback from like actual players. Yeah. Soul said, I DM'd a while back with the show idea of Sorare data builder versus a human with the same gallery. Time to make it. I think a few people have done that. I think Haber did that once, and Nellis may have also. The problem is that you need to make your lineup before you use the Sorare data builder, because just even the things in there, like you'd be influenced by what you see there. Yeah, I think it's actually less about Sorare data versus the human. People have definitely done that. Chani did it too, and I think who else did we? Phil's might have done it. Nellis. I thought Chani did it. Zanoob was the first one to beat the suggest a lineup. Simo said it would take Black twice as long to search players from Uzbekistan without Sorare data. Exactly. Yeah. Here we go. Mustafa said, I meant each comp going from the current format of 3 in-season teams with 4 in-season cards requirements and 3 classics to 2 full in-season teams, but 5 required, 2 mixed teams, and 2 classics. I think that's just too confusing. Like, I think that's why they don't do it. Will to Win said, personally, I think Sorare is in a pretty good spot with this new format, and like Nep, I'm very excited. I agree. Mike, I'm not picking somebody up at the airport. Honestly, I'm taking my kid to the dentist. And I have to drive there. That's all. Mike said, if you turn off the auto renew, you can rebuy in a different currency, or you used to be able to. That could be true. Surely there's a way. Dan said, I'm sure you saw, I got an email survey the other day. I did not get one, actually, asking about whether we think there's enough info on Sorare itself, hoping to get contacted for the further engagement. Like, I will never be the person to say like Sorare should have less info on the site, as somebody who works literally for like the top Sorare info site. But I think that they're just in a tough spot that they can't show everything, or they don't have the resources. Like, it's not like they could just look at Sorare data and say, we have all this data ourselves, let's just put it on our website, and like that it's done. Like, Sorare data has been around for years. Like, it has taken years to get to this point. And so thinking that it can just like be picked up right away, or that you can just like copy tools and do it, it's hard and takes a lot of work and really good designers, which we have. Dan said, hey, I'm a new member to Sorare data, started the whole thing for this football season. Thank you, Dan, for becoming a member, helping to pay for this content that you're watching right now. Grem said, with Ultimate Champion struggling, the Norway League rights may be available soon. Do we think Sorare has outgrown these types of leagues? Yes, I do. I think Sorare finally got to the point where they got not all of them. Like, they want all the big 5 leagues. That's been the goal forever. And they have most of they have 3 of the 5, and they have most of the other 2 leagues. And maybe if they threw in Eredivisie, I'm not even sure Jupiler would be included. Maybe Turkey, I guess. Like, the list only goes so long. And I think a lot of the leagues that they added previously, they got because they needed leagues. But it was all like working their way towards the big 5. And the adding more leagues now, I don't think is like, I wouldn't be surprised if they never added another full league, like a new league. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Blue Tomato said Zanu beat the lineup builder, then Sorare data hired him so that no one ever beat it. Maybe that's true. We were just like, all right, this can't happen anymore. Did Sean win against the builder? I don't think we did one with Sean. Sean's a funny one because Sean says he never uses pick scores or lineup projections, but he uses the builder to do all of his lineups, which I think is just a testament to what the lineup builder, even just from an organizational standpoint, is worth it. Yeah. Like, Peter, are you just showing up now? Graham said Saudi, maybe. I don't think they have any reason to add Saudi. Toby said, I think they might add top teams from the smaller leagues and remove the worst ones like they did with Turkey. I think that's more reasonable. And that's why I don't think they'll ever add more, like the whole Portuguese league. Like, they have the big three. You could decide where Braga fits, but like that's the only one I think they would ask. Yeah, so we'll see. I did actually, since what do we got, 100 people here right now ish. Have you guys liked this video enough? This is the time where I'm like, come on, guys. 32 likes. Come on. KB said, pick scores have me in a chokehold. I might think someone is better or worse than it suggests, but at the end, I look at it and say, okay, Daddy, I was wrong. Toby said, I think there's a bigger chance of them removing the bottom half of Jupiler than them adding the rest of Portugal. Oh, maybe. Peter said, I probably missed it, but it's a simple finance thing. They know how much each team is worth in revenue, and they see if the value of the league or going team by team is cheaper. And I don't think that there's a single league in the world that it makes more sense to go after the whole league than just a few scattered teams. Like, that's why I don't think we'll see much more from like Argentina or Brazil. Although, where the hell are the Brazil cards? Maybe we don't get them. So anyway, last thing here before I have to go. I got some feedback earlier this week about these streams, and specifically it was about how long they are. And I generally try to keep these streams to around an hour. I don't know why I ever had the idea that like an hour was the right amount of time, but I do try to stick to that. And part of it is that there's just I just think that there should be some sort of consistency. And that if there's a show, it's like, all right, I know I can listen to this in an hour or 30 minutes if you're a psycho that goes on 2X like Gator Guy. But and Toby said the last week you've done 90 minutes most days. So that's kind of what I was going to bring up. So like this week I did an hour and 15 minutes with Sean, an hour and 25 with Harry and Keith, an hour and 35 with Nep. Yesterday's show was almost 2 hours. And so I'm curious if anybody cares how long the shows are. That there was this thought that I had that if they get too long, you won't listen to them every day. I think it's kind of daunting to like see that something that you're about to listen to is like 2.5 hours long. But that's just me. And like, another part of it also is, I think when I have people on, there's kind of an expectation that they only need to only deal with me for an hour. And so, sorry, hold on one moment. That they only have to, be on for an hour. And hopefully they come on and the hour flies by and they're like, oh man, and they want to stay. But some people are doing this in the middle of their workday, and so I don't know. So my question is basically, if these shows start to go to 90 minutes, 2 hours every single day, are you guys cool with that? And I'm asking people who are watching now, because we're in the 90th minute right now, and there's still a lot of people watching. And so I think if you're somebody who's still watching after 90 minutes, your opinion really matters to me. So Peter, this is funny. You say as a podcast, it can be daunting, live video less. And I don't know why that's the case, because I almost feel like it's easier to do 2-hour podcasts because you can do it like over time. You can listen half an hour now and half an hour later. And a live video, I feel like, is the total opposite. Like if you do want to be here for the live event, like you have to be here, you're locked in for 2 hours. And that just seems like a long time. Blue Tomato said the longer the better. Mike said, I thought the target was 69 minutes. Maybe it was. KB in the LeBron James voice, thank you for taking on this ride with me. Here go 2 more for y'all. Yeah. I am not paid by the minute. These would be much longer if I was. More on my screen so my wife can be jealous. Okay. I don't know how to say this name, but 15 minutes is good enough. All right. So we're way too long. Major NFT said I could easily listen for 2 hours or more. I thought that originally said 2 more hours, and I was like, man, that's a lot. But again, I'm someone who's like baffled that like NEP can stream for 8 hours, 12 hours, or whatever. Godzilla says, could you not add timestamps for people watching later to see the specifics of the topic or off topic you're talking about? I think part of the issue is is that I go off topic so much that like the timestamps would be like every 10 seconds. Major NFT said this show is a video show first. I think that too. And to be honest, like the podcast feed, and there are plenty of people who are listening to this podcast right now. And if they're not doing it on Spotify, they don't even have access to the video. But I try to at least describe what's on the screen so that it can be an audio, because I think it kind of works. I mean, I've literally just been babbling for 91 minutes. Toby said, I don't think it really matters. Anything above 15 minutes kind of feels the same. Like once you breach the TikTok low attention span banner, it stopped mattering if it's 40 or 90 minutes. That's fair. That's fair. Mike said, I have to say the show I did for you flew by. I love hearing that, Mike. And like, I hope that every show flies by. Like, I hope people don't like tune in and they just, I don't know why you would keep listening if it was terrible. But I hope that they fly by. Like this 90 minutes has flown by for me. And that's why I'm like, oh my God, I got to go soon. Tom Brimson said, I don't care. It just feels strange to cut off a stream at a set time frame if you can go on for longer. Also feels strange to stretch it to an hour if you're just filling to get there. So I totally agree on both of those. And I want to think that I don't cut them off at an hour if we're like in the middle of something. And I can't remember the last one that I feel like I stretched. But that I was like, oh man, we're out of stuff to talk about. And it's only been 33 minutes. But I don't know. SGT said, I'm good with the longer shows. Major NFT says, I watch at work, so it helps my day go faster. Ricky, the game week previews with Harry have stopped. Yes. I don't know if they've stopped forever. But to be totally honest, the lifespan of those shows is so short that it almost wasn't worth me asking Harry to take his time to do them. And like he did them, and I'm always so appreciative of anything that Harry does. And I'm sure we could keep doing them, but it is a bit, it's a little tough to like do that show and then literally within 24 hours, like nobody's going to go back and watch it. And there are some things that come up in that show that I kind of want to keep talking about, but it's kind of the game week show. And so we don't. I think I'm part of the plan for these longer streams is that I'm going to do sort of shorter previews like that, like game week previews. But it'll be more focused on regions, but we'll see. KB said it absolutely makes it easier to commit working time fraud, which is a great phrase. I'd never heard that before. Soul said, happy with the length. I don't hear that often. Starting later would be amazing, as I usually can't catch live. So that's starting time is also a tricky one, because obviously I'm in the US on the East Coast. A lot of the audience is in Europe, whether it's in the UK or Central Europe, where you have, like, I don't know when you guys finish work. I don't know if you would rather watch this at work or not. I try to be cognizant of stuff like that. So we'll see. Major NT said, I think take the time you need to make the point, or even not. Yesterday was fun when Nellis dropped in. So that was totally like we got really lucky with that, because He was around, thankfully, and we were talking about it. And that was great. Dyad VR, which I don't know if I've seen that name before, although I do remember a VR in somebody's name. So 2 hours may be a little daunting to catch up on shows. 90 minutes is ace. So maybe any hour and 59 and less. Mike said, if I don't catch it live, I have to wait until the live chat is available for full enjoyment. I agree with that. I hate like just missing a stream and then being like, oh man, because it's almost like 24 hours. You have to wait for the live chat to pop up. Peter said, personally, I get distracted doing other things with podcasts and stop listening. That's to all podcasts, but that's a me thing. As a video, I stay more focused on it. That's fair. I get that. I have a problem like doing work and listening to a podcast because I realize after like 10 minutes, I'm like, I haven't listened to anything because I was working, or I'm not working because I'm listening. Don't worry, dudes watching this show are old guys. Time doesn't matter. That's fair. Blue Tomato said a football game is 90 minutes, so everyone should be okay with 90 minutes. I mean, with plus halftime. KB said, I noticed in the last few shows you gave your guests the option to talk about more stuff. That wasn't the case earlier, but I like this new approach a lot. That was sort of the point with like rebranding to the Sorare Data Show, is I didn't want every single show to be so restrictive, because there were a lot of times that like we start talking about something else and that like that's actually a better topic, and then but I felt like, oh wait, let's get back to what we want to talk about here. Yeah, Blue Tomatoes. I like doing the game week previews, but you're right. Like after 24 hours, they're just dead. Peter said maybe a game week show on the Monday before the weekend, weekly, talk about past week's Sorare performance with Harry and what it means for the next. I thought about that too, or just like a couple game weeks ahead. Problem is that like game match odds aren't necessarily out, pick scores aren't out, and that was kind of part of the show. Yeah. Mike said it's definitely better than watching at 1 a.m. when you guys used to stream your evening show. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But speaking of all of that, yeah, the drunk cast should be resurrected too. We never did that on this channel. This is a serious channel. We're real business here. Drunk casts are for like Nellis's show or Sorare After Dark. But anyway, I actually do have to go. After all that talk that we're going to go longer, I actually have to stop now because I have to literally take my kids to the dentist. So thank you to everybody for coming. I really appreciate the live chat. Always, particularly today with this feedback, you don't always really get like immediate feedback on things. So thank you for doing that. And I will definitely take everything into consideration. And maybe, yeah, we'll just keep, we'll stop. I'll stop kind of capping these shows in an hour. As long as people keep watching them, then yeah, we should keep going. So anyway, thank you to everybody. Good luck this weekend. I hope none of you get any DNPs. And we're all here on Monday celebrating our podiums and whatnot. So thank you to everybody. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe to Sorare Data. Helps this channel, excuse me. And yeah, oh, Peter, low blow. I hope MPen gets DNPs. But, you know, fighting words. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Good luck this weekend.